friends, we are going to be working today on becoming the best detectives that we can possibly become. So we are working on understanding and using information to create inferences. So right now we're just going to start by looking at the picture on the screen. Hopefully you see a rooster on there. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with this book or not, but we're going to talk about what's the difference between details and fact and factual information and inferencing. So if we were going to look at the facts about this specific animal, we would say this animal has a red part on the top of its head. It has a yellow beak. It has black, orange, blue, red, and yellow on the body. Behind it, there is something white with blue speckles. Those are all details and factual information about this picture. Are there other details or information that you might want to include? Take a moment and write down as many facts about this picture as you possibly can. It's okay if you want to pause the video, and you're welcome to continue writing. What we're going to talk about now is the difference between a fact and an inference. So a fact would be the different colors that are in the picture. An inference would be, this looks like a rooster. We know that roosters are usually on a farm. We don't see a farm in the background. So maybe he's not on a farm. Maybe he's in a cage. That's an inference. We're looking at the details of the picture, and we're using the picture to kind of make a judgment or go beyond what's seen. We're going to watch a little bit more of this video, and I'll pause it, and then we'll talk a little bit more about inferencing. Okay, so now we see that the rooster is standing on something brown that looks like a fence, and we see that there is a child with a brown hat and a child with a green hat in the picture. We see that there is a door or a window of some kind. There's some sort of divider between the people and the animals. Okay, those are all details. An inference might be, these look like they might be little boys based on what they're wearing, but I can't tell for sure with the green on there. And it looks like maybe they're on a farm somewhere and they're looking at animals in a barn. Those are inferences. Okay, facts versus inference. And what I would encourage you to do is maybe make a T-chart that you could write down facts on one side and inferences on the other. And I'll show you what that looks like in case you're not familiar with a T-chart. Basically, I'm just going to take my piece of paper. I'm going to fold it in half and put a line right down the middle. And on one side, I'm going to write the word facts. And on the other side, I'm going to write the word inferences. And again, I'm going to put my long line right down the middle. So this is what my paper looks like. I have facts, I have inferences, and I have a line down the middle. So some of the facts that we said was that the rooster had different colors on it. It had black and red and orange. The first time we saw it, we didn't know that it was standing on something. So on this one, we put that it's standing. We also put that there was a white background with blue dots. Okay, and now we know that there is some sort of divider between the people and Anna and the rooster. And we know that there are two children. So again, as we're going through and making these observations, these factual observations, we're using our five senses. So we're using our sight, we're using what we hear. So we did hear the noise of farm animals. We heard sheep, we heard cows, and I think we heard chickens. We're not going to taste it, we're not going to touch it, but we're going to use as much of our senses as we possibly can to collect our facts. Now remember, our inferences were that the rooster might be on a farm or might not be on a farm. That was our first inference because of the background, right? So I'm going to put my proof on there because of the background. Okay, now our inference changed. What we know and our perspective of what is going on in the picture has changed. So we think that there are children looking at the animals on a farm. Okay, so if you need to pause and copy down notes, here are the notes that I've taken so far. So take a minute and look over that. And again, you're welcome to pause it at any point. You can stop and blow up your image and take pictures, whatever you need to do. This lesson is for you. So then let's keep going with this video and see what else we can see. Oh, we hear people laughing in the back. Oh, wow. Okay, so there's a very big change as to what's going on here. So we see now that they're in, it looks like in a house maybe, and it because there's a door. So it making it saying that it looks like they're in a house is an inference. So it looks like they're in a house. But our factual information is there's a door, there is a bug flying inside, there's corn on the side of the door, it looks like there's a lantern. They're not dressed the same way that we dress. So we see that they have different shoes. One child is wearing red shoes, one child is wearing green shoes, one child is wearing shorts, one child is wearing a dress. So when we do that, those are the facts. And our inference is, again, they look like they're in a house. It looks like there's a boy and a girl. And they're watching the rooster. So when we infer, we may want to ask questions too to see if we can gather more information. So a question we might ask is this a house? Is this where the kids live? So again, remember that inferencing is us using detective work, okay? So when you go and you use inferencing, you're taking the facts and the information that you're gathering, and you're thinking about the information that you know, and you're making a theory or a hypothesis about those facts. We're going to keep watching. Okay, so now we have a bigger perspective. Again, we could hear noises, but now we see pigs, we see ducks, we see a horse, looks like maybe a cat, and then it looks like it's a house or a building of some sort, and it's got boards over the shutters, and it's got a little walkway, and there's a little place where the pig is putting its face. So our inferences would be maybe this is a rundown farmhouse, an old farm. The kids are inside. There are farm animals outside that are eating. It looks like it's maybe springtime because there's grass on the ground. Those would be inferences that we could make from this picture. Okay. Inferencing can also be, what do you think is going to happen next in this book? And so looking at how our book has started, where it started with a small image of a rooster, and it kind of panned out a little bit, and then it panned out a little bit more, and it gave us more information. My next question might be, what is going to happen next? What are they going to show us next that gives us more information? What do you think they're going to show us next? I kind of see there's something on the edge right here. So maybe this is a picture in a museum or something. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, so I was wrong. Now it's showing more houses. So if we're going to talk about facts, we're looking at there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buildings. 6 of the buildings have dark brown roofs. One of them has what looks like a light brown textured roof. There is a red truck in one of the yards. There are 2 trees, and still our animals are there. There's a ladder from the ground into one window. Those are all factual things. So what can I infer about this? Well, I see that there is a truck. I kind of think it looks run down, like maybe they were trying to get it going and something happened to it and it broke down, and the tracks are the reason that I think that. I think that this is a neighborhood of some kind. It doesn't look like any neighborhoods that I've seen where I live, and so it looks like it's a faraway place to me. Those are inferences. Oh, wow. Okay. So what I thought is completely different because now I see that maybe these are a model on a table. I'm looking and I see that these are small. There is a human hand reaching in, and one of the houses can fit in the person's hand. I see that there is a box with more things in it. I see that there is a semi truck with a blue cab and a white trailer. There's a yellow car. I see that there are more houses further out, more trees and some wood and maybe another animal or two. And my inference is just what I said. Oh, maybe this is somebody's table where they're building a model, and they're placing everything right now, so it kind of looks kind of mishmashed. What I want you to do is I want you to take a minute and just enjoy the rest of this book and make inferences as you get to see more and more things in this book. Okay, so looking at this, we see that this might be a book that a person is reading, because look, there's fingers up in the corner. This looks like a girl leaning on a chair. Maybe it's a toy magazine. Again, those are all inferences that a person could make. Think about the difference between factual information and an inference. Okay, so again, they panned out a little bit more. What inferences do you have? What inferences could you make about what you see? The facts are there is a boy who has blonde hair, a white shirt, and green shorts with one shoe on his foot and one shoe off of his foot. He is sitting on a chair somewhere, we don't know where, and it looks like there's puddles around where his shoes are. So your inference might be that this boy came in from playing outside in the rain and he's sitting in a chair. Or it may be that this looks like a lawn chair and maybe he was sitting out by the pool. You get to make the inference for yourself. Okay, so again, there's a pool. He's in the lawn chair. There's sunglasses. There's something out behind him. I don't know what it is. There's a woman with a hat in a red swimsuit. There's a child or a person in the water kicking water out. There's a drink right here. There's a guy in a swimsuit getting out of the pool and a child wearing scuba gear and shorts and a mask. I'm assuming that it's a boy. That's an inference that it's a boy because he's not wearing a full bathing suit. An inference might be that it's a hot day and they're just enjoying the pool time. The sunglasses make me think that it must be sunny outside. Oh, wow. So now I see they're on a cruise ship of some kind. They're on a ship. I don't know if it's a cruise ship. I would assume it's a cruise ship. There's a guy throwing stuff over the side. My inference is that it's birdseed because there's birds right there. There are people walking about on a higher up deck, and the man is pointing at something. He's got his hand pointing at something. I am inferring that it's whatever is out in the water. He sees something out in the water. What other inferences could you make about this picture? Okay, there are some clues that are going on. What do you hear in the background? What do you see that's changed? Have your inferences changed? Now, if you've never seen this book before, you don't know what's happening. All you know is that you had like a little bitty view inside of the cruise ship of a magazine that a boy was reading. And now you've zoomed out and you realize that the cruise ship is an advertisement on a bus that's driving by in a city. So even though our perspective has changed, what was going on in the situation wasn't changing. We're just now opening our eyes to more of the details. So that's the way it is with being a detective in your reading and even in how you view things. You look at the very fine details. And as you begin to notice the things that are going on within the reading and within the pictures that are around you, then your perspective changes. So it'll change your inferences. The more you know, the more you can infer. Okay, so I'm curious what this is in the bottom left-hand corner. Is this on a TV? That's kind of what it looks like to me. That's my inference, and maybe that's somebody's boot or shoe, and they're watching a movie. I don't know, but that's kind of what it looks like. Okay, so now we see what we thought was in the city. We now see this is out. It looks brown. It doesn't have any trees. There's, canyons and things in the background. There's a man with a hat who has darker skin. He's got a pipe. Maybe he's a little bit older. That would be my inference. So I'm thinking maybe this is somewhere either in Mexico or maybe it's in some of the hotter, more desert areas in the United States. And he's either Hispanic and works out in the desert area, or maybe he's a Native American and he works out in the desert area. Those are my inferences. And he's taking a break to watch TV for a few minutes before he gets back to work. And I think that he's probably working because I look at his boots and I think usually people wear boots to work out in the desert if they're working with livestock or animals. It protects their feet and their legs a little bit. Okay, so now we get an even bigger picture. I see a rope, I see a saddle, I see saddlebags, I hear horses. Oh, there's actually words on this. So it is Arizona, and there's a saguaro cactus, there's a bird. This looks like a little camper trailer. Maybe he's working, maybe he's not. We don't know for sure. And then it looks like the edges of a piece of notebook paper, or it could be something else. I don't know what that is. Oh, I do know what that is. It's something that's familiar to me. I don't know if you guys use them very much, but I use them occasionally. I'm not going to give it away. All right, so let's stop for a second. We've gone from the inside of this picture, okay? We started out with a chicken. We expanded to a farm. We expanded to see that that was in a magazine. We expanded to see that that was in a advertisement or on a ship, and then we saw that that was on an advertisement in the city, and then we saw a man working out in the desert. Now we know it's Arizona, and now we know that that's a stamp on a letter. So all of those details started out with that teeny tiny chicken. Oh, okay, so these people are not dressed the way that we would normally dress. And there was kind of some Hawaiian music in the background. So I'm wondering if maybe this is the Caribbean or Jamaica. And it was to a tribal chief. We don't have a whole lot of tribal chiefs. And we do have some Native American tribes, but usually, I haven't seen anybody dressed like that that's from a culture in the United States. So definitely somewhere outside of where we live. And then something else to think about is, what's the next picture going to show us? What are we going to see next? Oh, by the way, your code word for today is chicken. Chicken, chicken. Okay, so now we see that this is a perspective from somewhere else. It sounds like and looks like it might be a helicopter or a plane, and it's the pilot's perspective. Oh, it is a plane, and he sees a volcano, and he's flying over what looks like the ocean. Wow, and now we see that the plane is somewhere on Earth, but we can't tell where. And now all we see is Earth. And now Earth is really tiny. And now it's just a dot on your screen. All right, so as we go through this, I just want you to know the title of the book that we just read was called Zoom. There is a book called Resume. You can look at both of those online on YouTube if you would like to. However, it's not a requirement. If you do go and look at Resume, I would encourage you to try to look at the details and make observations, and then also try to make inferences about those observations. As you go through and do that, I think that what you'll notice is that the more inferencing you do and the more observations you make, the more you can tie it to what you already didn't know to make inferences. So I'm going to pause our video for just a moment and see if I can switch cameras over to look at a reading passage that we're going to do together. Okay, we're going to work on this reading passage together over the next week or so. And so I just want to take some time to talk to you a little bit about this reading passage. It's called Lace Round the Sky. And as we go through and make inferences, I'm going to write notes out to the side. You are not going to have this piece of paper in front of you. All you have is this computer where you can pause the recording and you can do your own writing on a blank piece of paper. If it were me, I would either get a notebook where I could take notes, or I would just get a regular old piece of paper and I would take notes as we go. So you're going to want to make sure that you have good information by the time we get to the question portion of this reading. Today, I'm just going to read the passage to you. Next week, we'll go back and take notes on it and then begin to answer the questions. So it says, Catalina and her father, who she calls Papa, live near the Cerro Tololo Observatory, located on the top of two mountains near La Serena, Chile. The observatory is home to a group of very large and powerful telescopes. Because the instruments on the telescopes are so delicate, the telescopes are kept in dome structures for protection. That's interesting to me. Dome structures. Those are kind of rounded structures. All right. There's an image, and it says adapted from Lace Round the Sky. So this is showing me that this is from a book by Cecilia Aragon. Here's our title, and here's our author. Anytime you have images, you want to take a moment and look at them because they're going to be important. It takes a lot of money for people who write tests to create the images that go in here or get them copyrighted. So what I see is what looks like a girl, someone who has braids, leaning back and kind of looking out into what looks like stars and space. She's sitting on something wooden. It looks like maybe her porch. And then I'm assuming from what we read that this is the observatory where the telescope is. I've seen an observatory before from the outside. I've never been on the inside of one, but that's what I would think it would look like. And then these are steps and maybe the door going into her house, and she's sitting next to a cat. Catalina stood on the doorstep of the Cerro Tololo Observatory staff housing, drinking in deep lungfuls of the clear night air under the blazing southern hemisphere. Starshine. Sorry. The Milky Way sprawled across the sky, a swath of pure white lace shadowed by dark blotches. Night was her favorite time. During the day, the Chilean mountaintops swarmed with tourists, shouting and calling to each other as breezes spun dust into the thin mountain air. While the visitors were there, Papa would not allow her to help. But at night, when everything was quiet, Catalina was one of the few who were allowed beyond the roped-off corridors and the no admittance signs. The staff all knew her. She loved helping to service the grand telescopes, the eyes that peered out into the universe, even if it was annoying how she was always told not to disturb the astronomers who directed the telescopes through the night. Catalina wanted more than anything to confess her secret dream to these great and revered scientists. When she said, "Papa, I want to be an astronomer someday," he laughed and tugged at one of her long black braids. But Catalina was curious. The sky did not merely consist of white dots of stars against a black background. The sky she saw every night was knotted with patterns from fuzzy balls of fluff to filaments. No one would believe she would be a scientist one day. But why? She knew she could be a good scientist. She knew it. She danced along the dirt road, bare feet soundless against the gravel, a practiced eye scanning the half-dozen of domes at the mountain's summit. Then she stopped suddenly. The 1-meter telescope's dome slit was open, but its angle was unusual. Cautiously, she wandered nearer. The telescope was pointing down, almost at the ground, lower than she had ever seen. She bit her lip, shifting from foot to foot. The red light over the entrance door indicated that it was forbidden to enter and disturb the scientists at work. Something was wrong, she was sure of it. So, taking a deep breath, she turned the handle and slipped inside. So there we see her slipping inside. She took a cautious step forward and saw an irregular shape hunched on the floor. She inhaled sharply. It was a man. Coming closer, she saw that one leg was bent under him at an awkward angle. "Signor," she whispered, "are you all right?" The man groaned. "Fell," he gasped in accented Spanish, gesturing at the platform above. "I think broke leg." Catalina balanced on the balls of her feet. "I'll run and get the night operator," she promised, already backing toward the door. "No!" His voice was sharp. "First need to fix the telescope." Catalina's eyes lifted to the clock drive lit by a blinking yellow light. She had often helped her father reset this device. Quickly, she walked to the controller and flipped the 2 switches her father used to stop the telescope. The man behind her was gasping out directions. "Shh! It's okay," she soothed, coming to his side. "I fixed it. No more problems, okay?" You what?" he muttered, confused. "Already?" Then his head lolled to one side. Catalina jumped to her feet. Her braids thumped her back rhythmically as she ran all the way to the night operator's office. Senor Rojas, there's an emergency, she called out as the big man swiveled his beat-up wooden chair to face her. The astronomer using the 1 meter had an accident. He fell and broke his leg. You need to get help. Later that night, Catalina crouched behind one of the junction boxes as the astronomer was carried out on a stretcher. Wait, he called as he was about to be loaded into the ambulance. Wait, Catalina. How did you know? He asked. Know what? She whispered, puzzled. That something was wrong. She scuffed the dirt with her toe. I saw the barrel pointing down and I knew it wasn't normal. His eyes sharpened. That was observant of you. Shyly, she nodded. His gaze remained on her as they lifted the stretcher and began to slide it into the ambulance. A good scientist, he continued, is always observant. That night, when she ran out under the stars, she called, I'll discover all your secrets someday. Circling above her, the intricate sky no longer seemed quite so remote.